That's the number of dogs that are domestically abused each year in the United States. These numbers do not even include all the cases that go unreported. Animal abuse is something that occurs every 60 seconds of every day. And it is not just limited to domestic violence. This includes laboratory testing, animal fights, zoos, farming, and circuses. Yes, even circuses. Animals abused in homes include animal hoarding, farming, fighting, and neglection. Most of the time, people who abuse animals abuse humans as well. And most of the time, that is a sign of a serial killer most of the time, a sign of a serial killer can be spotted at a very young age. If a kid is found abusing or killing small animals, psychologists predict that they are at a higher risk of killing people later in life. Even if a child sees animal abuse, it makes them more likely to want to abuse animals as well. Even though animal abuse is considered a felony under the law, this does not stop people. Just like abuse on humans, it is very hard to report every single case, and it does not help that the animal cannot report it themselves. Dog fighting and any animal fighting that is forced to fight each other is probably one of the worst forms of violence, in my opinion. These animals are raised to fight each other so humans can make some money or whatever they want to make off of that fight. And these fights can last from minutes to hours or until one animal kills the other. And most of the time, both animals are killed at the end anyway. A lot of these animals are given steroids or other drugs to make their muscles bigger or encourage aggression. Therefore, pit bulls are given such a bad reputation. They're the dogs that are mostly chosen for these fights and raised and bred to have the most aggression possible. And it doesn't help that those pit bulls are shown off in the media as being a sign of aggression and proving that their owner is tough. Most hip-hop artists use pit bulls in their music videos to make them appear more rebellious. Just like domestic animal abuse, these fights are almost never reported, and the owners of the fights are likely to be prior criminals or have a secret drug cartel on the side. There are some warning signs that are on the ASPCA website to help identify that there might be animal fighting going on in the area. These signs include animals having multiple scars, animals with ears ripped off, multiple animals in small cages, dogs put in heavy chains, and dirt rings around the dogs outside. Dog fighting or any animal fighting can be found in any community all over the world. The states with the most dog fights include Illinois, Texas, Virginia, and Ohio. And dog fighting is seen as a form of entertainment, just like circuses. I bet most of you have never even thought about what goes behind the scenes in circuses. Here are just a few reasons why animals are abused. First, trainers use whips, tight collars, muzzles, electric prods, and any other abusive tools to make animals perform. I personally do not see a reason why the trainers have to go to those extents to train the animals. Like if you're training your dog at home, you don't use those tools, do you? No. You use treats to make them learn, so why isn't the same method used with the circus animals? Also, tigers naturally fear fire, yet they are still forced to jump through the fiery hoops repeatedly and risk being burnt for us humans to be entertained for just a few minutes or hours. Not to mention about 96% of the animals' lives are spent in cages or chains when they're not trained or being performed. The only exercise these animals are allowed is when they are either being trained or performing, and that is not nearly as close to as much activity they would get in the wild. This lack of exercise leads to foot infections, arthritis, from standing in the small cages for most of their days. This abuse from just circuses can be avoided if they train them in more humane ways, or simply just not use animals in circuses at all. They are viewed as an act and not a living creature, and are not treated well at all. So imagine if you were kept in your dorm room for your entire life, and you were fed the same food every single day. You would be very stressed and bored, right? Well, next time you go to the zoo, I want you to look at a few things that the animals tend to do. Look at the monkeys. They bite the bars of their cages. And the cheetahs sleep all day instead of running around. And the seals are seen swimming around the same rock. These are all signs of stress. If you've ever noticed, animals do not have much energy in the zoos. They just lay around. And animals in zoos like the circuses do not get the same amount of exercise they would in the wild. It's crazy to me that we go to the zoos to learn about the behavior of animals, but the animals in the zoos do not behave like they do anything like the wild. Zoos treat animals a lot like the circuses do. They are kept in very small habitats that do not mirror the habitats that are found in the wild. Not to mention, they live in those same habitats for their entire lives and walk the same path all day, every single day. These animals do not use their natural instincts of survival. They rely on humans to feed them, and they feed them at the same time every day, and they're stressed because they cannot use those instincts. So this makes their lives very boring. Sadly, animal abuse is something that will always happen. Some things to help will be just simply not to go to zoos and circuses. I know it's fun to see those exotic breeds of animals, but if you want to see how they regularly behave, go see them in their natural habitat, not a fake one. Other ways to help would be report any abuse that you see to reduce the chances of it happening again. I'm not asking you to change your whole life, but with me, I decided to change my whole life and become vegetarian. That is a very extreme example, I know, but even if you learn something from this speech, I will say that it's taking a step towards ending this abuse. And I just want people to realize that animals are living as well, and they have their own lives just like us. And if we treat them like we do our friends, there will be hardly any abuse.